Well, hi guys, back in the garage, and today having a little fiddle around with the XJS. It's got an aftermarket sound system. It doesn't have Bluetooth or any of those things. I've been using one of those cheap FM transmitters that sort of Bluetooths from your phone to the transmitter and then sends out an FM signal to the radio. But it's an old disc player that's got really small writing. I can't read it. I'll show you soon what I've bought, but I think it's going to be sort of a bit of modern uplift to an old stereo, but it'll fit in the XJS all right, I think. It's a single DIN unit. So we'll get into that in a minute, but the first thing is I have to get the old unit out. So let's start the process. We'll see what we've got in here. We'll see what the wiring's like, and then we'll try to work out how we're going to get the new unit into the XJS. Right, let's get this out of the way. So that's our current unit. It's an old, well, it's newer than the car, but it's an old Pioneer unit. It's got very, well, it's typical digital display. Let's show you what I've got here. This is one of my biggest problems. Just finding the on button for this is, there we go. Quite an old unit. What I'm planning to do is, Right, so I'm going to try and get that off. I think this, it's got one of these removable, oh there we go, we'll take out the Wings CD. It's got a release here, so it's got one of the removable fascias. So that was the 90s answer to theft control. Carry that around your handbag. Now I've got to work out how to get this release, and I think that should pop out, but that might take a little bit of doing. Not sure if that's a screw in there either or not. Right, I might have a bit of explore and see how to get this out. Pull that off, that's probably a better idea. Right, now I think we're back in business. Slide those little tools down here. I think the idea is you slide a tool like that into here, and it releases the clips between the cradle. Trying to do it one-handed. There we go. Here we go. That's in. Keep a bit of light on there. That one's in. Did that loosen it up? Aha! Look at that. And that just pulls out. Oh, it's not focusing well. There we go. That just pulls out. So that gets the old unit out. Now we'll be able to see what wiring we've got. Okay, it's probably a bit of a mess. We'll have a look and see. Don't lose those tools. You may need them again some future stage. Let's have a bit of a, so I've got an aerial wire obviously for the radio, and I need to sort out all this. So I'm going to disconnect these plugs from the back of the stereo and work out what's what. I'll come back once I've done a bit of investigation. Right, so the good news is all of that wiring went into a single plug at the back and the aerial there, which I've now removed, and all I have to do is work out how all this wiring works. Now I don't think it's as tricky as I originally thought. There's 8 wires for the speakers, which I think are the main speaker wires, and there's a series of wires for power and everything here. And the good news is most of this has labels on it. So that's the positive battery. So that's the constant 12 volt. So anything like clocks and stuff have got power to them in the stereo. This red one is accessories. That's some interesting wiring going on here. That might be an earth. Looks like an earth. That's a black ground wire. There's no labels on these. One of these has got to be the electric aerial. So I'm sort of at the stage of, don't know whether to cut or unplug. I don't want to make another harness up. I don't think I'll have a plug that'll fit that. So I'm going to have to cut these somewhere here and then work out what each one does. But obviously this has been aftermarket into the original loom. There's more stuff here. Look at this. Well, Jaguar, you gave me plenty of wire to work with, which is good. Thank you. So it's just a matter of working out which each one of these wires are. I'll do some investigation and we'll work this spaghetti mess out. So it's been made a little bit easier for me because the previous installer of the last one has at least labelled the speakers. So RF, right front, 2 wires, positive and negative. What's this one here? Right rear, I think, by the look of it. Left rear, sorry, left rear, and whatever's left front. So we know what wires go to the speakers, and I did a bit of a look up. Jaguar apparently used to use a solid colour for positive and a striped wire for the negative, although that doesn't quite look right there. So all I need to do is work out positive and negative, and that's only to ensure that I don't have sound waves cancelling each other out. If I have them all positive and negative correctly wired, the sound shouldn't cancel. Anyway, that's that bit. And as I said, I think we've worked out roughly what's going on with those, although I don't seem to have enough. What's the blue one? That might be the aerial, is it? System remote control. Would that be the electric aerial? I don't know. Ground, accessories, constant power. What's... it's still getting a bit confusing. I don't seem to have enough wires based on the new wiring that I've got. And I'll have to show you that in a second too. Maybe this is a good time to go and have a look at what we've bought and whether it's actually going to fit. Right, we'll do that. Righto, I bought a fairly generic CarPlay unit. I'll show you the ad. Doesn't have any punctuation whatsoever. So you can see even the reversing camera in the picture doesn't have a cable to it, and if you read the ad you would think that the reversing camera was Bluetooth, but I never assumed that was the case. I figured that was just the way it was presented. Anyway, let's have a look what's in the box. That's the CarPlay unit. You'll notice it's quite a lot shorter. It goes up that way. It only really has the one button, which is volume, which I like to have a nice tactile button which I can turn left and right, or clockwise and anti-clockwise technically, and that will hopefully, looks like it's, yeah, so it's got a plug on the back which I think's for these connectors. Let's just have a little look. There's no instruction guide for wiring. That's just the instruction guide for how to use the unit once it's connected. That's all the reversing camera cable. Whether I connect that up or not, don't know. Now here's the two bits I'm after. That's the speakers. So that will plug into either the bottom or the top. I'm not sure which one plugs in where. They look, both got 8 pins. So all I need to do is match those ones with the one I just showed you, which was the wiring harness for the speakers, which were already labelled. And as you see, just have to match the positives and negatives up, make sure we get them right. The power harness though, it's got a few extra bits. So we've got key, accessories, camera, so that's for when the camera is hooked up. B plus is that constant power that I mentioned for, I don't know, clocks or anything else. That's the antenna power. Now this brake, I think, is to hook up to your park brake sensor, and that locks out some features. I think if I earth that, everything will be happy and it'll just operate as if the brake's off all the time. ILL, I presume, is for illumination, and the ground is fairly obvious. Right, quick video just to make sure I've labelled these before I start cutting. Black is ground, red says accessories, that blue one says remote, which I'm thinking might be the aerial, and that goes to a white cable, and the yellow one is the constant power. So they're the only 4 I've got. So I'm going to cut those and connect them to the harness just loosely and see if I can get just power to the unit. Right, all I've done is just twisted those wires together from the new harness to the old, matching up what I think's right. I'm going to plug this into the back of this unit now. You can see there's a plug. There's a plug there. So I'm going to plug that in and see if we've got any power to it. Alright, I've just put, as you can see, dodgy wiring, and I think the aerial popped up too. So that's at least in working. I have no idea whether there's what the other screens look like. We shall come back to that in a minute, but at least I know that I think I've got some of the wiring right. So I'm going to connect those wires properly and we'll work out the others as we go. Well, we're making progress, guys. Righto, I've done some relatively neat soldering, and they're all solid, they're not pulling apart. So now I can actually turn the ignition on. And just check that this is all firing up correctly, which it is. Things are working. Obviously got no sound because I haven't connected the sound up, and I don't know what I'm doing as far as, oh, here we go, here's the screen. So it looks like that's all working. Now I'm not sure what to do with that brake switch, whether that will stop some functions or not. And the illumination one presumably dims it. I might trim that and earth it out and just see if it changes anything on here, obviously. Anyway, that's working. I guess the other thing is now I've got to work out this mess of speaker wires. So while I've got the soldering iron out, I might do that. I'll put the shrink wrap back onto these. Oh, okay, don't do that. No, all good. I'll put the shrink wrap on that so that doesn't happen again, and then we'll have a bit of a fiddle with the speaker wires. Right, now fortunately this harness has got plugs, so I'm just going to pull all the plugs out and simplify this, and then I can maybe put these similar type plugs onto my harness and just plug them in, save me soldering. I'm going to try that, see if that works. Alright, so I now have the old harness disconnected from the Jaguar harness. So as I said, these are labelled, and I think the stripes indicate which one's positive and which one's negative. So I think I found something on Google, so I'll pull that up and just check. So according to Google, the solid colour is negative, the one with the stripe is positive. Now if I get it around the wrong way, instead of the speaker coming out when it gets a certain charge or signal, it'll pop in, so it'll go the opposite way. You'll still hear the same sound frequency, but they can cancel each other out. If you've got one speaker wired positive, negative, and the other one switched around, sound waves can cancel out apparently. I'm not an expert on sound. I understand the physics of sine waves cancelling out, but anyway, we'll try and get it around the right way. The only problem is this wiring room, there's no colours, it's all grey. So the one I've got has different colours, but as I said, this is labelled at least, so we'll try and get some of these plugs maybe and just wire it in. The other thing is I've just been trying to get this cradle mount out. There's little lugs that have been pushed down. I'm going to try and pop them back up and get that out, because I actually haven't tested this in. Now it says it's a single DIN. I am a little bit worried about this air vent very close to it, and I hope that there's only literally it's only a couple of mils around the edge, so it shouldn't foul with that. But I do want to make sure before we go too much further. At least I can probably put this back together if I had to put the old Pioneer one back in. Righto, keep going. Well, it's coming out. If I have to reuse it, I'm probably going to have to bash this one back into place, but just getting those little tabs that are bent over out and trying to get this out without scratching anything now. Right. It's having a bit of trouble focusing. Anyway, we'll get that one out. That's easy. Throw it away. Poke at all these. How much room have I got there? It is tight, isn't it? Might have to sort of angle a little bit up. I'll just do a quick test fit. So that's the cradle. It's fitted, comes fitted on the unit. I just have to lift those tabs just to loosen that off. That should come off. One of those things you probably need two hands for. Stop videoing. Oh, there you go, that's loose. So I'll slide that off and I'll just test fit that cradle into there. Let's see how it goes. Right, I haven't quite put the cradle in yet. I just thought I'd test this. Now, there's a lot of wires behind there that are holding that out. That's, I think, going to work, and I could still get to that air vent. I think. Don't get. Yeah, that still works backwards and forwards. Obviously, those wires will go back a lot further. I believe that will clip in okay over there. Right, back to wiring. Now I've got no way of knowing what is positive and what is negative, but there is some, it appears, consistency in whoever did this last time, in that the male connector for each pair is always on the solid colour and the female connector is always on the striped line. So solid for male, striped, solid, striped, solid and striped. So if I at least do a matching, I've just got the same connectors, little bullet type connectors. If I do the same and work on the theory, I think the solid, I'll work it out, I'll come back and create an equal pair, because these are all labelled, front right, front left, rear right. There's a pair for each. If I put the right connectors on that, I should be able to just plug that in and without having to do any soldering. So that's the plan. Don't want to do soldering. So let's start putting connectors on. Righto, I ended up soldering the bullet ends, the male ends. So I'm going to connect that to that and then plug it into the device and see if we've got some sound. This will be interesting. Alright guys, just turning my attention to some of the extras. It's got the camera, that's the cable and that for that. And it's also got an external microphone. Now I've just tested the phone. I've Bluetoothed my phone to the unit and I've tested my phone and you don't need that. So there is an internal mic on there that works. You can see a little microphone way down there. You can plug this one in to the back and put it up here. Wherever. I think it's just going to look daggy, so I'm not going to do that. Probably not going to fit the external camera at the moment. That's the cables. There's the camera. I'm just not sure it's going to look all that great, to be honest with you. It's a bit, how you going? I've driven this long without a reversing camera, so those things might just go back in the box for another day. So the next job is, probably got a little bit of heat shrink to do on these cables, just some of those connectors. You can see here you've got a few, those bullet ones didn't quite push in all the way. I'll just put a bit of heat shrink on those. Get the cradle pushed in and the tabs, a couple of the tabs pushed down just to lock it into place. Put that back and then we'll take it for a test drive. So yeah, I'll start working on probably that heat shrink first. Right, everything's heat shrunk. I've pushed this cradle in, pushed those little tabs down just to lock it in place. There's probably another one on the side there that can go in. I'll do that and then I'll slide this in. So that's just pushing it back into the cradle. I'll get some better shots in it without the glare, but that's sitting quite neatly. Right, this is probably a bit of a run through. I'll turn it on, hopefully there's less glare. I know there's still a bit of glare there, but as I turn the ignition on, it should come up. Nice little red car. So that's on the red, that's on the radio setting. What have I touched there? That's now on sort of Bluetooth. It's got a couple of, you can scroll backwards and forwards. I've got Waze on. I like the home screen, if I can get to it. The clock, I think it just looks a bit like the original pre-HEs with the analog clock. So anyway, that's working. I won't put the volume up, it's working. I just don't want YouTube saying I can't put commercial music on. So that's it, guys. I think I like it. I think I've done a successful install. It looks neat. It doesn't foul with any of the other instruments. It fits neatly in a single DIN. So It's Chinese. I paid 70 bucks for it, and hey, it works. So I'll give this a run for a few months. I'll put the video up now. If anything happens in the meantime, I'll probably put a follow-up video just to let you know. But hey, I'm happy with it at the moment. It works. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next time.